The UFC has thrown up some excellent fights during their run as the most popular MMA promotion, but some fights have ended quicker than others. While most of the classics run the full 15 or 25 minutes, some are considered iconic due to how quickly they've drawn to a close. Masvidal versus Askren, anyone? Today, we're discussing some of the quickest knockouts in UFC history, so make sure you don't blink. First up is the quickest of all time, Masvidal versus Askren. There was a lot of tension in the build-up to this one, thanks to Askren's trash talking, so when Masvidal knocked him out in just 5 seconds, the Miami man was visibly fired up. As the fight was about to begin, Masvidal was seen in his typical pose with his arms behind his back, leaning casually on the fence. When the referee signaled the start of the fight, George took a step or two to his right to create an angle and rushed in on Ben, launching himself into the air with a flying knee which landed flush. Askren was out cold, of course, and Masvidal followed him to the floor to land 2 super necessary shots to the KO'd former Bellator champion. The fact that Masvidal was practicing the exact move which ended the fight in the locker room before the fight just made it even better. The UFC 239 flying knee KO has since gone down in folklore and is often seen on highlight reel KOs. What did you guys make of this brutal knockout? Let us know below. We're talking Ryan Jimmo and Anthony Perosh next. Stay tuned. These two came together in the light heavyweight division more than 10 years ago now. Has it really been that long? With the fight lasting just 7 seconds. Jimmo, who was sadly killed in a hit-and-run incident after being involved in a car park altercation back in 2016, stepped to Perosh, who was backed up against the cage, throwing just a solitary straight right. The shot landed flush on the chin of Perosh, who was sent straight to the canvas. The referee was just as shocked as the Calgary crowd, as it took him a second or two to get between the pair, with Jimmo managing to land another shot on the beleaguered Perosh. A huge knockout from Jimmo, but Perosh was able to recover and impressively beat Vinny Magalhães next time out in the latter's native Brazil. Do you remember this one? Next up, it's TKZ against Mark Hominick. Shortly before Chan Sung Jung was whisked away by the South Korean government to complete military service, the Korean zombie achieved the quickest knockout of all time up to that point. Hominick rushed to the center of the octagon, throwing a wild left at the Korean, which just missed. Chan wasn't going to stand around and let that happen, however, throwing a straight right in return, which landed on his opponent's chin. The shot rocked him and sent him down to the canvas, with the zombie following him to the ground. He landed 3 or 4 bombs before Herb Dean waved the fight off after just 7 seconds. The incredible win would have put him firmly in contention for a title shot, which was realized after his next win against Dustin Poirier. Unfortunately for the legendary Korean, he came up against one of the most dominant champions of all time in the form of Jose Aldo. What was the best performance of Chan's career in your opinion? We have Todd Duffee and Tim Hague up next. Stick around. This one from all the way back at UFC 102 in 2009 saw Tim Hague deliver the quickest KO of all time up to that date against Todd Duffee in just 7 seconds. The latter threw a wild left hook which was way off its target, but Hague telegraphed it and countered before Duffee's labored shot could land. Hague's huge punch sent Duffee to the canvas, and of course, as so often happens, he followed his man to the ground to finish the job, landing some huge bombs in the process. Who was your favorite UFC star from the early days? Let us know below. Terrance McKinney and Matt Frevola are coming through now. McKinney took just 7 seconds to dispose of Frevola at UFC 263 last summer. As the pair came together in the middle of the octagon, they both appeared to have decent guards up, but in the blink of an eye, McKinney had landed one of the quickest 1-2s you're ever likely to see, announcing himself to the UFC and its fans. The performance is almost certainly one of the best UFC debuts of all time, and it's thought that McKinney is now on the cusp of possibly breaking into the lightweight rankings. A fight with one Paddy Pimblett has also been mooted of late, which would be a real fan favorite fight. What did you make of McKinney's lightning KO? Next up, it's Makwan Amirkhani and Andy Ogle. Stay tuned. In a scene reminiscent of Jon Jones's first ever title fight against Shogun Rua, Amirkhani opened the January 2015 featherweight fight against Andy Ogle with a huge flying knee. The Iranian, who's unfortunately gone on a bit of a skid of late, winning just 4 of his last 10, followed the knee up by forcing Ogle up against the cage, where he landed a huge uppercut to finish the stricken Englishman off. He then landed some more punches, as Ogle was on his way to forming a crumpled heap in the corner of the cage, before the referee waved it off after just 8 seconds. Who is your favorite featherweight of all time? Let us know below. Leon Edwards and Seth Baczynski are up next. Current welterweight king Leon Edwards came up against the Polish Pistola back in 2015 and finished him in just 8 seconds flat. The fight took place on the Gonzaga vs. Krokop undercard in Krakow, Poland, but even having home support couldn't save Baczynski. Edwards had to dodge a few early bombs from the American before landing a straight left from hell, knocking Baczynski clean out as he was looking for a front kick up the middle. Just 2 fights later, Leon would come up against future welterweight champ Kamaru Usman, dropping a decision to him. But we all know what happened 7 years later as the pair came together for their second fight. What did you guys make of Edwards' brutal KO of Baczynski? And now it's Houston Alexander and James Irvin. Stick around. This fight went down at UFC Fight Night 13 in April 2008 and saw Alexander eat a huge right hand from Irvin. Houston had thrown a straight left, but Irvin knew what was going on and landed a sort of half Superman punch, half right hook, as his right foot actually left the floor to add a bit more power to the shot. Alexander didn't see it coming and hit the deck straight away, with Irvin following him to the ground and landing 2 or 3 more big rights. Another 8-second finish for the record books to match the record previously set by our next fighter, which brings us on to Don Frye and Thomas Ramirez. Frye is universally recognized as a true pioneer of mixed martial arts, and is for early UFC performances such as this one. The fight was billed as David versus Goliath because, as you probably remember, the early days of UFC didn't mess around with silly things like weight divisions. Ramirez seemed to have a good 50 pounds on Frye, as the pair went to war in some more than questionable outfits. Frye went for the pro wrestling look, and Ramirez appeared to be wearing sleeveless pajamas. However, the fight lasted all of 8 seconds, as Frye landed a big right to the chin of Ramirez, sending him directly to the canvas without passing go or collecting $200. Looking back at the footage of this one seems surreal when comparing it to the technically superb fighters who call the UFC octagon home these days. What did you guys make of Frye's KO of Ramirez? And finally, we're talking Gray Maynard and Joe Veras. Stay with us. There was a time when Gray Maynard was easily one of the best lightweights on the planet, but years before challenging Frankie Edgar for the lightweight title, he took on Joe Veras and delivered one of the quickest knockouts up to that point in just 9 seconds. As the fight began, the pair were scoping each other out, looking for opportunities to attack. It just so happened that Maynard found the first big one and capitalized on it in brutal fashion, delivering a huge left hook to the chin of Veras. Maynard flattened his opponent before following him to the canvas to land another couple of huge shots. But by this point, the result wasn't in doubt, and the referee saved Veras from any further punishment. Veras would sadly have to retire shortly after due to a string of injuries. What did you guys make of this knockout from Maynard? Pretty crazy, right? As always, thanks for dropping in on us today, and remember to tune in again next time when we'll be discussing loads of different bits and pieces. And why not do us a solid by sharing today's video with any MMA heads you might have lurking in the depths of those social media accounts. Bye guys!